Hey guys, I'm Karla Dennis, and this is Karla's Coffee Talk. And as you know, I'm a mother of 4, and one of the things I want to talk about is how I've been able to instill open communication with my sons. And the way that I did that was literally just through honesty. Nothing was ever off limits when talking to my boys, whether it was about school, anything they did wrong, girls, sex, money. Nothing was off the table. And I think that's one way that you instill honest communication. What do you think, Carlton?
Yeah, I think growing up, the most important thing for us was knowing that we were able to go to somebody when we were dealing with certain things. And if you have really good communication with your parents, then you feel comfortable being able to tell them difficult things, whether it's about something that happened with a girl or whether it's an experience that you're going through with your body or a change. And I think most people feel like they don't have a very honest communication with their parents because of that lack of connection at that early on age.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is just no judgment. Whatever your kids bring to you, whatever they say, you just have to be able to receive it, and you can't be afraid, you can't react to it. I mean, I talk to you all the time, Carrington.
Yeah, like your understanding about like things that are going on in my life and me being able to approach you, I think is huge, because like having that line of communication, knowing that I can go to someone to like trust and like tell all my secrets pretty much. Like my mom's my biggest friend for a reason, you know? So you know all my secrets, you know everything about me. So me being able to go to you, I think is huge, and only just makes our relationship stronger.
Yeah, and I think too, it's because you trust me, right? Because your mom to me, or I've tried to be to you guys, like I have nothing but pure good things for you guys. Like the pure as a driven snow. So my advice is always going to be as pure as a driven snow, right? My only dog in this fight is to make sure that you guys come out on top. And I've done that with both of you, all 4 of you. Cam, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to what Carl said, and just being comfortable with your parents. And I think it starts at a young age, just kind of fostering meaningful relationship. And as you grow older, the relationship with your parents, especially with you, only gets stronger. And I think that the more and more trust is built early on, the more receptive kids are to speak to their parents about issues that may be going on in their life or situations that, you know, may be bothering them. And so I think that definitely at a young age, always feeling like I could trust you has definitely over the years have gone by, has strengthened me and strengthened our relationship together. And so I definitely feel like I can always come to you for anything, really. Like she has my best interests at heart, and she has my back, most important.
Yeah, and I just always tell you guys, it doesn't matter what happens, right? One thing I know I would tell you when you would go to school, I'd always say, Kenny, I don't care what happens, you got to tell me the truth. Don't let me hear it from the teacher or the neighbor before I hear it from you, right?
Right, and I think that, you know, with a lot of different parents, they talk about you don't want to be friends with your kids, you need to be your parent, your parent, your parent. And with you, you really balance that line extremely well, because I was able to have conversations with you and be open and honest. But at the same time, there was that discipline where you were a parent and I knew where the lines were crossed. And I know that parents who are out there, you know, who are looking to have a better relationship with their kids, you know, you need to have a fine balance between being that friend to your kid, because if you have a really good friend, you trust that friend. Yeah. You're gonna tell them anything and everything, your deepest and darkest secrets. But as well, you being that parent and being that guiding light for them and allowing them to, and teach them, you know, what they need to know and guide them and prod them and different things like that. But I just think it's that 50-50 relationship where you gotta have that friendship and that bond with your kid. Then as well, you gotta be the guiding star for them as well.
Yeah, and tell them, and so when you say be their friend, like I've always tried to make sure that you guys knew you could talk to me, right? Talk to me about anything, but I also was the mom that told you that was wrong. You need to go apologize. You need to go fix that. Like I wasn't gonna co-sign anything that you guys did wrong. I was going to make you atone for that. I can remember when you, Carlton, decided you wanted to get your ears pierced. You remember that situation?
Absolutely. And
let's talk a little bit about that, because I said to you, that wasn't gonna happen, right? I said, I don't want that to happen. And what happened after that?
Well, I got disciplined after that, and And the way that I got disciplined at that point in time was really just getting things taken away from me. The most important thing at that point in time for me was sports, football, being with my friends, all that kind of got stripped. Cell phone got taken, sports got taken, because I decided to make a decision without consulting with my mother before making that decision. And the one thing you have to realize about parenting is your children respect you when you're the consistent person for them. Right? We're talking so much about how do you establish a relationship and get to that place where you feel like you can be honest with your son, or that your son or daughter can be honest with you. What type of person are you that allows for your son to be honest with you? Are you the type of person that's just going to let them get away with certain things and then all of a sudden be the parent on other things? Are you going to remain that consistent North Star for them, even when it's hard, even when you don't want to? You're being that person, a consistent parent that you need to be for your child. And that's what your children technically lean on more. So rather than just the parent that's always there, the parent that's always lovey-dovey, it's who's the parent that was the most consistent and showed that they were the most consistent. And that was a big telltale sign that I learned later on in my life.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to be the parent all the time. It's hard to not give in to everything that you guys have asked for over the years. But at the end of the day, as a parent, it's our job to parent. And I think when we're starting out as parents, when I first had Kenny, my whole goal as a parent was just to try to keep him alive, right? Because there's no book that comes with how to really raise a kid. I just wanted you to wake up every morning, put you down at night, and you to be safe. But as you start to see your kids grow, not only do you want them to be safe and stay alive, but you have to realize as a parent, they need to be safe and stay alive out in the real world. So you are their first person that they love. You're the first person that's going to discipline them. You literally make or break your children by the way that you engage with your kids. I remember there's been a time with each one of my kids had to come to me and tell me something. And it's a tough conversation when your kids have to tell you something. You have to sit still and you have to listen. But at the end of the day, I think that communication is important, honesty is important, but I haven't always been the perfect parent. I mean, there's probably times when they, as kids, probably were like, oh my gosh, my mom's a witch. I remember Carlton used to say mom stood for mommy or monster. I remember he used to say that to me because you would think that I would be mean sometimes, and it probably came across me.
Yeah. I think, you know, as a younger individual, I looked at the decisions that you were making for me, and I couldn't understand why you were always making these decisions, where I saw other children were being able to partake in certain things that I wasn't able to partake in, and I just couldn't understand. But it wasn't until later that I realized, like, I didn't have to understand. And that was the whole purpose, is she's gonna teach me in the way that she chooses to teach me, and she's gonna shape me in the way that she chooses to shape me. And I personally have to be somewhat okay with that as a child. And as you develop a relationship with your mother, you learn to trust her. You learn to trust your parents and why they're telling you not to do certain things. Don't touch the stove. It's not. So, and that's why they call it growing pains for a reason.
Yeah, you got to walk on faith, right? I even remember when COVID first hit. I remember you and your friends were planning to go to, was it Palm Springs?
Havasu.
Yeah, you guys were planning to go to Lake Havasu, and COVID had just hit, and all of you guys were gonna go, and I was the first parent to say, no, Carrington, you're not going. And then what happened after that?
I mean, right after that, every other parent backed down. I mean, I don't know, like, it was literally the day right before too. I mean, I can understand if it was a week out, but the day right before we were supposed to go to Havasu, my mom comes to me and says, I just don't think it's a good look. I just had to bite my tongue. I just had to hold back because I wanted to go so bad. Everyone was going, bags were packed, all the food was set, the itinerary was set. We were about to have a blast. I just had to bite my tongue because I know my mom knows better. And right after that, all the other parents backed out. Don't think it's a good idea.
And they were glad, right?
Yeah.
They were like, I'm so glad you spoke up, because they weren't willing to speak up and be the parent for their kid. And that's really what it's about. Cameron, I know for you, you've recently, as of last year, you came home from college, you were away from me for 5 years, for the last 5 years, right? And so I hadn't been parenting for 5 years. But I think some of the things that I taught you while you were with me and when you went off to school, you used those things to get through those tough times at school, especially when you were on campus with your brother for a year.
Yeah. I think definitely like just leaning on discipline, you know, when you leave the eagle's nest, sort of call it, you know, you have the ability to spread your wings, but then you're still, you know, if you goof off, you know, it's going to catch up to you eventually. And there's kind of this idea that when mommy and daddy is not looking, what are you going to do then? That's kind of like when the integrity comes in, you know, that your parents instilled in you from a young age. And so I definitely think when I first left that eagle's nest, I had Big Brother, I had Carlton there, and he was kind of a guiding figure for me. But when Carlton left, it was just me on my own, and I had to lean on discipline. I had to lean on integrity that you instilled in me. And sometimes, you know, you don't do the right thing, but you learn from it and you keep going. And I think that that was something that was instilled in me by you from a young age. And I think that that's probably a big reason of my success in graduating to Cal Poly and staying the course.
Yeah. So I just think it boils down to discipline, conversation, communication, trust, right? It boils down to trust and just keeping it real, just being the one that's going to tell you exactly how it is. And as a parent, sometimes you have to tell your kids things that you don't want to tell them. And sometimes you have to be the first person to hurt their feelings. And sometimes you just have to be the one that crushes the party or closes the party down. I don't know. It's been good though, right?
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been really good.